In 2019, the entire world faced a pandemic. A virus, labeled as COVID-19, spread throughout the whole world.
We were forced to isolate ourselves in our homes, afraid to infect others.
Although it was safe inside, we felt so lonely at times.
Nothing fun was happening. There was nothing to experience.
Every day just felt the same, like it was on repeat.
I'm Samantha.
I'm Arkin.
I'm Charity.
Hi, I'm Haniel.
I'm Vivien.
And this is how we handled quarantine day by day. Ever since we started staying at home, I felt no need to get out of bed and get ready. There was nothing to get ready for. I'd wake up and scroll through my phone until I decided to get out of bed. Most of the time in quarantine, I had spent drawing and developing my skills. And of course, I did other activities too, like reading, playing piano, playing games, and even laundry and doing other chores. One of my only excuses to get out of the house would be to walk my dog every now and then. However, I really missed fellowshipping at church and experiencing church in person. Sundays just felt so alien to me. However, I was still able to contribute to church services despite the distance.
Let's begin. If I remember correctly, quarantine started in the month of March after our fine arts competition. Spring break began, but once it ended, it got extended by one more week. I was wondering, why did this happen? After some research in the internet, I discovered about the COVID and the quarantine, and my life from quarantine started from there. This is my home. In terms of my life in quarantine, it changed me a lot as a person. It made me a lot more lazy. I always wake up super late, and then I eat breakfast or lunch, depending on what time of the day it is, of course. In online class, I sometimes even watch anime or play video games to skip time, which heavily affected my study in a bad way.
Here is where I spent my quarantine. Sleeping in was part of my routine. What was there to do if I got out of bed, is what I thought. During online school, my sisters and I would watch movies in between Zoom classes. After school, we eventually tried baking and cooking. We experimented a lot in the kitchen. I always made excuses to get out of cleaning, but now that I definitely had the time to, I had to start cleaning. Whenever we got sick of staying cooped up inside, my sisters and I would play outside. We wanted to try something new and ended up playing volleyball. And finally, after 14 years, my sisters and I learned how to ride a bike. It was really hard not being able to meet up with church family and not having a means of online communication. We weren't able to talk to many close friends, but my family was still able to make new friendships during quarantine by having church at home. Church at home was hard at first, but it got better. My parents opened up our home together with other church members to watch the live stream together and also eat lunch.
A day in my life during quarantine. During quarantine, my day looked like this. Every weekday, I went to work. I usually woke up around 7, got ready for work, and left at around 7:30. Once arriving at work, I worked, I did whatever it was that I needed to do. Then we usually grab lunch at around 1, ate for around 40 minutes. After eating, we worked for a couple more hours until the day was over. We headed back home at around 4:30, depending on the day. After work, I either went to church if there was service that day, or I stayed home doing absolutely nothing. Well, actually, I did a couple things like maybe cleaning my room. I usually slept at around 10, pretty early because of how tired I was. And I had to be ready for the next day, which was the same thing all over again.
My quarantine had started just after I finished my freshman year of high school. It was honestly the worst school year of my life academically, but I still powered through even with my missing assignments. I spent most of my time either sleeping, playing games, and occasionally going out for some errands. Wearing masks wasn't too big of an issue, but it did take some time to get used to. And of course, I tried my best to stay on top of my spiritual growth, but as you can see, I was not conscious for most of it.
During quarantine, I genuinely didn't care all too much about staying in because I actually enjoyed being indoors all the time because of my hobbies that I like doing, which was, drawing and stuff. But eventually I did miss hanging out with my friends, specifically being at church and at school. And regarding church, aside from falling asleep during the church live streams in our living room, I think I also felt my own spirit fall asleep as well. I wasn't that passionate about thinking about the Bible and God, but if it weren't for my youth pastor helping to reach out to us through Zoom and play games, and just to have those weekly Sunday school hours, I really needed that to revitalize our passions and walks with the Lord during quarantine.
I guess what saved me in these dark times during quarantine wasn't a game, TV show, or any form of media that entertains me. No, it was actually the Bible itself. I learned from some lessons and it made my life feel a lot more ordinary again.
During this time, I think that my sisters and I were really able to bond and be close to each other. As for my spiritual life, I would always make excuses before, like not having any time when I really just didn't want to read my Bible or talk to God. But after watching a youth conference, I made decisions to start reading my Bible and praying. And I think that these events eventually led to my spiritual growth. Overall, I realized all the things that I took for granted, just like going to school or seeing friends or going to church.
During quarantine, my spiritual life wasn't pretty bad. My relationship with God wasn't the best, but my relationship with my family got better. We were able to get closer with all the time we spent together as a family.
One of the main struggles for me was obviously staying motivated. I didn't really have anything to look forward to every day since there wasn't really anything to do. And for my spiritual life, I also had little to no motivation. Sometimes I would get up and watch the live streams, or I would just sleep in all day. But even now, I feel like I have improved a little bit since I realized that I didn't really take action during that time. I do want to finally take action now.
The pressures and hardships that everyone had faced during the pandemic caused many to become lost. Death had overrun the population, affecting the lives of numerous families. The world accused God rather than turning to Him and trusting Him with its difficulties. And yet, God has been and always will be with us to give us strength to keep going. Many unfortunate people were devastated by the isolation and loneliness from the quarantine, but Christians are given a reminder that even when there is darkness or struggling, hold on to the light of Christ to protect yourself from straying away from it. He can get us through any afflictions and tribulations in our lives, just like how He got us through our quarantines.